is the term supremacy, or white supremacy, where you have a people who, in their heart, in their mind, in their soullessness, believe that they are the ideal human, that they believe that they are superior to all the people, and they believe that what they do, how they act, how they think, is the best possible model of human behavior. So by default, from that thinking, whether it's conscious or subconscious, for some of them it's conscious, for some of them it's subconscious, by default, from that thinking, you automatically attempt to move other people in the direction of your thought and behavior. It doesn't have to be consciously doing this. You just automatically. It reminds me when I was at Morehouse and we were getting ready to take a trip, and a van needed to be rented to go, and the white female faculty in the department will say, well, you know, you can go and rent the vehicle. And I said, well, no, I can't rent the vehicle because I don't carry credit cards. And her expression was, something was psychologically wrong with me for not having a credit card. She didn't voice it in that way, but she knew that something was wrong with my response. Why don't you have a credit card? You know, there's something wrong with that. Don't you know that we created these and it's for the good of us? You know, blah, blah, blah. So you have a people who move us in the direction of their sexual insanity and perversion because that's normal for them. And because they see themselves as the model for correct human behavior, then they try to move everybody else into being them. Because that would make us correct. I don't know or care whether they are conscious of it. It's the effect. Even though we know theoretically, philosophically, politically, when it comes down to the nuts and bolts decisions and thoughts, we know that they are conscious of it. We absolutely know that. We know that behind closed doors, and sometimes behind not so closed doors, that they are conscious of it. But of course, what tells the degree to which they believe it and act on it is what they do. And there is nothing in the media that I'm aware of right now that is questioning the idea of homosexuality as normal and natural. There's nothing in the media that I see that's questioning the idea of orgies. There's nothing that I see that's questioning the idea of bestiality. When you go back and look at the studies, there's surveys, Masters and Johnson, on back to the Kinley report. All of these reports had questions in there to them because these were surveys of them about bestiality, and their answers, they're all in this, but because we don't read these reports, usually because they're so boring and, you know, all this scientific stuff, then we don't know that this is part and parcel of what they do. When we understand this, we see where they're taking us. We see that they're simply taking us up. I say, Europeans have convinced Africans to move away from our traditions. They have convinced us that the idea of traditions itself is old, archaic, outdated, outmoded, you know, way back in the day, what have you. So for you to even think about embracing somebody's traditions in a progressive world, something is wrong with you. You're backwards. We deal with words. We don't think about it. Somebody who is gay, you know, out, open, front, versus somebody who is straight, boring, way back. We don't think about a lot of terms that we use. They have convinced us to run away from our traditions with all due haste. But any people is going to be culturally connected somehow. Everybody operates and exists within a culture. So if we're moving away from the African culture, what are we moving toward? They want to lie to us and tell us that we're moving towards some American culture as if American culture isn't European culture. So what they haven't done is that they have not moved away from their culture. They're moving us toward it. They've never left who they are. They've never changed it. You find evidence of everything that you have now. Go back. There were proportionally as many single female-headed families in traditional European society before they were there, before America was discovered, as there are in America today. That hasn't changed. When you go back and you look at the drawings of the cave, you see acts of homosexuality, bestiality, you see all of the things that you see today. When you look at their mythology, when you go back to Hesiod, who was the first recorder of their history, of their philosophy, you find the use of the word bitch to describe Pandora. You know, this is thousands of years ago. They haven't changed. So the practices that we see today that we think are new, as I said earlier, they are simply manifestations of what they normally do. It hasn't changed. Our problem is that we don't recognize that this is European culture, and we don't recognize that they never moved away from it. They just politically finagled the situation to make it appear that they were not doing this or they were not doing that. It was not appropriate at a particular point in time in their relationship with us for us to know that they were homosexual people or that they were pedophilic, and that the most dominant form of homosexuality in Greek and Roman society was pedophilic between an adult male and a boy. Now that we have become assimilated in the sex education class that we're taking, now that we're becoming more and more assimilated into that, now it's becoming more and more okay. So when you look at the pattern, they're simply moving from those things that we find least distasteful to those things that we find most distasteful. And as they're moving in that direction, we're becoming more like them, so these things that we now would find most distasteful will become least distasteful for us because we become more like them. Mm-hmm. That's, in a nutshell, to me, it's really that simple.
Yes.
But in order for you to really see that pattern, you have to see them originally. Once you can see them originally and look at how things have changed over time, the pattern over time in terms of us assimilating their behavior, then we can see. We can see clearly where we're going. And we are simply going back to Rome, Greece, Proto-European society. Wow. That's exactly where it's going.